Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808. And today we have a very special guest on board, a man who's a slow typer, a so-so writer, who's been the shit ever since he was an infant in diapers. It's the man with a restraining order against Satan's daughter that he keeps at the bottom of his Jameson and water. Back when he was green, he used to rap to be seen, but now he's in blue jeans, looking like Bruce Springsteen, and it's not even close to Halloween. Yes, it's one half of Atmosphere. That's a 10-letter word. Discretion is the name of his cement-feathered bird, and if you didn't hear, then fuck what others heard. Yes, people, we have got Sean Daly, aka Slug, from Atmosphere in the house. How are you doing, my man?
Man, that was an outstanding introduction. I'm like, man, you say some of them lyrics better than I say them. It's beautiful. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good, and I appreciate you coming on. And man, the annals of your rhyming go on for decades. So I had to pick a few choice ones I really enjoy, and some of the latest stuff you've been bringing still gets me laughing and gets my mind flipping when you bring this wordplay, man. So I had to. And today we are going to talk about, yourself, Atmosphere, your career, but I hope this is going to be a little bit different, because this is going to be part of our 3-album run series, right? Where we talk about historic album runs that mean something to us, of 3 albums inside and outside of the 90s. We're usually a 90s podcast, but as we asked you to come on, you're going to bring LL Cool J to talk about, the Colossus LL Cool J. So I'm ready. We're going to go Radio, 1985, Bad, 1987, and Walking with a Panther, 1989, which is an interesting chat. So Slug, first of all, thank you. But before we jump into any of that, I've got to ask you, ask every guest who comes on, Sean, what's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
Oh, I mean, my whole 24 hours was the antithesis of hip hop. Like I got sick kids at home, and one of them projected vomit all over the couch and the rug, and so and I'm a little under the weather, and so me and my wife had to like pull the couch apart and get the rug out and run to Target and get like a cleaner for rugs, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to pay somebody, $500 to come and clean this rug. It's a beautiful rug that was sent to me from a friend in Afghanistan, actually, before they pulled all of the Americans out. A friend of mine sent a rug.
Right.
And my kid just threw up all over it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's cleaning that.
Yo, quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you'll be kept up to date with all that we're doing. And also, man, get involved in the YouTube comments. Man, we love hearing from you fellow hip-hop heads. We love nerding out. So bring those takes and just bring that flavour, man, and we might even shout you out on the show. So yes, appreciate all the support. Now, back to the episode.
I mean, it's sad, but it's what kids do. They puke. You know what I'm saying? So I don't go, I go, yo, couldn't you have aimed it over there? Anyway, so it's just been, like we just been doing custodial work around the house, looking after these kids.
Yeah.
Let's see. Last night, we watched The Grinch. And it wasn't very hip hop either, But to be fair, man, honestly, all of it's hip hop. Everything I do is hip hop. Not on some I am hip hop, but more so like, it's so ingrained in me that I don't always necessarily realize that it's there and present regardless of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like we started saying dad rap about 10 years ago as a joke, because it was like there wasn't dad rap yet. There was just dad rock, but it was like I wear cargo shorts, so there's dad rap. You know what I mean? So it's like we started joking like that, and it's like really it almost like it manifested a real thing. Like I am dad rap. Move over, Karis one. I am dad rap.
What a label to be, attached to yourself for your career. I feel you're more than that to a lot of us heads, I'm a 90s head, so I remember getting to you guys early noughties, so I know the era before dad rap, but man, it's a great thing to have. as a genre that gets older and older, you know, we all change and we do become dads and mums. And so it is nice to hear it replicated in the music we love. So, mate, Bruce Springsteen jeans, not even near Halloween, that hits home, bro.
You know, I would argue with you that even back in the 90s, I was dad rap. I just didn't realize it yet. But if you really comb through the older material, you hear the cringy jokes. You hear the, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot of cringy lines, like they're dad jokes. They're there on purpose because that was who I was. Those are the kind of jokes I said to my friends, just even in dialogue, you know what I mean? And so it's like, and also you can hear how I was like always kind of lacing everything with a moral or a message. True, you know, like that dad rap stuff has always been present, but I was a young father. You know, I had my first child when I was before you ever heard of me, you know, so I was already a dad technically, you know what I mean? And so I feel like it's finally come full circle for me in my realization that I have always been dad rap. I am just now finally hitting that you know, that final level where it's like I'm fully embracing it and not running from it like I might have been in the 90s.
Raymond Ridge, I need to talk to you about your testicles, and in particular, the hair on your testicles, because yes, support for Crate 808 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Yes, have a listen to that.
Have a listen. This shaver really does run at the speed of light.
There we go. For the exhibit heads out there you go. It does run at the speed of light. It is. If you look on the camera, it's even got a little light for you there, mate. It's razor smooth. It's razor smooth, I would say. And this is what I'm talking to you about today. Ray, where do you stand on ball grooming, my friend?
It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous a little bit.
It does.
I didn't know I needed it until I had it. And that really is the sound of electric relaxation.
Stop. Well, I actually was going to say to you, is it hip hop to have clean balls? And Manscaped are great for this. They even send you like stuff to put on top after you like shave the balls, almost like aftershave for the balls, or so you have scented scrotums. Scented scrotums is the best title for a Cool Keith song that hasn't been released yet. Just like a hip hop backpacker uniform, you've got Timberlands, right? You've got Carhartt jackets, you've got fisherman hats, but now I do think we need to put clean shaven balls into the mix. Where are you with that?
No, I agree completely. In my opinion, you got to look after the twins so you can live that glamour life.
That's good. Manscaped's performance package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. We've got an exclusive offer just for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code CRATE808 at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, Ray, that's about 8 million balls. So get 20% off, free shipping, code CRATE808 at manscaped.com, and get involved, man. Get involved.
I heard it's used by Easy Dick and the Jack Off Hour.
Easy Dick and the Jack Off. Keep bringing them. So this is like, I think this is called the Lawnmower 4, Ray, isn't it? So pretty cool. Yeah. I'm enjoying this. But you know what I'm enjoying just as much? And maybe it's me, but my nasal hair and my ear hair can get a bit out of control. And I do tend to get in there and, you know, just trim it up a little bit. And this weed whacker, they also do. This is also quite cool. And I really enjoy this. So yes, you get this. And, you know, as I've said before, it's a gift for any hip hop head who's got hair on his body. So make all your holes look sexier. That's what I say, Ray.
Definitely. And what I'd say as well, if you've got the skills to eat someone's ass like cannabis has, I'd recommend it to you. You could use it on other people as well. You really could.
So yes, people, go out there, manscaped.com, crate808 code, get your 20% off and big yourselves up. Ray, I'm glad you've got clean balls, and I'm glad you've got the knowledge now to get those clean balls, because hip hop's fifth pillar is knowledge. So thank you, Manscaped, for letting us know that we do all need to go out there and have clean balls.
Thanks to Manscaped. It really does look like OPP.
Yeah, you know, if I'd embraced it in the 90s, I probably could have. I'd be Beck by now. You know what I mean? I'd be like, just everybody would see me and be like, "Oh, he looks like Bob Dylan. What happened?"
Yeah, really good points, actually. Yeah, you're right. It's all there. The foundations are there, and a man who seamless segue, a man who helped you form these foundations for your career, I presume, was when you first heard LL, right? So, like, there's a lot of different people doing this series. that, and no one really went to LL, which is fascinating to see his canon of stuff he's done. But for you though, Sean, why was that one that you thought, I'm going to go with LL's run and not this other one?
I mean, to be fair, there's many artists I probably could have chosen to speak about just because I have been opened and influenced by, everybody from the golden era. Basically, I could talk about any of the men or the women from that era. Shantae was one that I was like, yeah, that would be really great to talk about because it's another artist who had a ton of influence, but doesn't always get that shine. You know what I'm saying? Like her name does not get mentioned enough when we're talking about the influential early artists,
Yeah.
And I actually want to get to that a little bit later because there's an LL song that I feel like could have been written by Shantae, not to suggest that she wrote for him, but more so I hear her influence in one of his joints even, you know what I'm saying? Wow. And I don't know if it's true. It's just, it's just my ear going, whoop. I revisited all three of these albums actually last night before the kids went to bed. I sat and listened to all three of them after the kids went to bed and heard things that I never noticed before. And that was really interesting for me too. So I'm glad that I went with LL. The reason I think that I mainly went with LL is because that is to me the element he embodied the energy, the middle finger, the things about hip hop that I think drew many of us to it and continue to. Today when you look at the youth who are drawn to hip hop, what are they drawn to? They're drawn to that counterculture, don't tell me what to do. I do what I want to do kind of a kind of a space. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's one of the things that I always go to when I hear some of the older people talk about how the young artists aren't doing their job or this or that, or they got complaints about these younger artists. And it's like, nah, you're wrong. You're just old now. But if you really look at the effect these younger artists are having on the kids, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like all that's there. Like you might want to criticize the technique, or you want to criticize the brush strokes or even the final composition, but you can't take away from another person's art. That's there,
Yo, us here at the Crate 808 podcast have kicked off our Patreon. So if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a platform where you can go and for a small donation you can help support us make more hip-hop content for you. Go on to patreon.com/Crate 808 and you can check out all the little payment options you've got there. You can check out the 2 new episodes you'll be getting every month, live chats with us guys, just to rap nerd out with you guys. We're going to go into some wide-ranging episodes, delving into the work of the Wu-Tang Clan, MF Doom, and Jay Dilla. So get it locked if you want that new granular look at hip-hop. So go to our payment tiers on Patreon, big up yourselves. If you choose to support us, thank you so much. I will give you a personalised shout out on the show, and we shall catch you in one of these live rooms and let's get this community going. So spread the word. Much love for your time and peace out. Boom. Absolutely. So what's interesting then is you saying there you listen back and you're hearing things differently from these records 30 odd years old. For something like radio, like that, it's weird how that I as a 90s head, I didn't hear radio till after I'd heard Mr. Smith, and stuff like that. That's when I went back and heard radio. And my experience with LL, as I called him a colossus earlier, but if you look at his spanning of 3 decades, he's got fans of each era, and your experience is probably very different to mine. But for you, when radio came out, what did you first experience when you heard that, and now how does it feel listening to that album?
The LL's impact on me could not be overstated. I wanted to be LL Cool J, period, hands down. I wanted to be his DJ, actually. I wanted to be the guy that played his beats for him, picked out what songs he was going to do. And I was gunning for that job. I never could figure out who really had that job back then, because you would look at who had different DJs on the records than on the stages or whatever. But I wanted to be his Jam Master Jay. And here's the thing. When Run-DMC happened, that was when the separation occurred between me and my father having the same musical tastes. Because prior to Run-DMC, the rapping Melly Mel or the Sugar Hill Gang, me and my father both were like, yeah, and to me, it was no different than some Earth, Wind and Fire or some Parliament. It was just more of the music that I got to hear in my father's car. When Run-DMC happened, that's when it was like, nah, this ain't for my dad. This is for me. You know what I'm saying? And I could tell my dad didn't like it. He was, why are they yelling at me? You know, I'm banging on, you know, and I'm like, cool, that's good. That's mine. You know what I'm saying? When LL happened, it almost felt like he made Run-DMC turn into my dad. It was almost like when LL happened and this younger, super hungry, very technical rhymer started rapping, I was like, whoa, this is for me. Run-DMC, that's old people music all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? Like that. And it's crazy. And that's one of the thoughts I had last night when I was thinking about this. It was like, well, what was it about LL? And I was like, so he, like, Run-DMC already felt like, okay, this is for me. But LL was just even more of a cute look and a cute angle of it. It was like, this is really what I'm all about. Like, I still loved Run-DMC, but it almost felt like now these old men are yelling at me, telling me what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas LL was telling me, you know, he had middle fingers up, and he was like, you know, he was, to me, hip hop. And that was, when that happened, it was around the same time as Beat Street. It was around the same time as a lot of things in my life. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things occurred in my life where my identity shifted. And this was now what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an advocate as well as a creator. I wanted to be a part of this, not just an advocate, but also somebody who took part in it, and somebody who helped clean it and polish it and love it and feed it and grow this tree. You know what I'm saying? And that was the beginning of it. So it's not even, I wouldn't even blame LL for it, but he just showed up right at the same time that I showed up. You know? Yeah.
Interesting you said that then, because what is it? Do you remember what made you want to go from a lot of, like, the vast majority of hip hop is listeners, you know, people who actually just listen to the music and take part in the culture, maybe going to gigs or, you know, doing odd things. What was it for you that you went, you know what, I'm not going to be on the sidelines. I want to participate. I want to, you know, take part in it and not be a spectator. What was it for you? Do you remember that moment?
Acceptance, identity, you know, people who also were trying to apply it to themselves. We bonded. I bonded with other people. You know, I found the other people who were interested in being more than just listeners. And that acceptance, that identity, you know, somebody started to give me an identity around the time that I was 13 years old. And that was it was that timing. You know what I'm saying? It could have been anything, man. It could have been gangs. It could have been comic books. It could have been skateboarding. It could have been any number of things, but somebody or some people validated me at just the right time that I needed that validation. And that gave me the hunger. And then when I saw the attention that it received for me being able to do a breakdance move, or, you know, for the drawings in my black book, or for me being able to rap exactly like Slick Rick on Lottie Dottie, for me being able to imitate the voice and whatever, beatbox, to learn Dougie's beatbox from Lottie Dottie, the type of attention that brought me felt good. It was validating. And so I chased it. You know what I mean? Like, and at the time, like, it's funny that it's me saying this, because I know 1,000 people in my city who could say this, who don't have the career I have. Like, at the time, I didn't foresee a career. I was just another one of these kids that wanted to love this and hold it and be it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then Radio as an album, as it comes out, you've had Run-DMC, but obviously, you know, we all know the story, Def Jam, the house that LL built, you know, people call that now. That's how important he was as an artist. What do you remember about Radio that was so striking? Were there certain tracks that, did you catch the stuff on Crush Groove beforehand? How were you with it going into the album?
I knew I need a beat. I didn't have the 12-inch, even though I was already buying records. I somehow missed that 12-inch. Probably didn't have no money that weekend or something. But I had it on a tape. Somebody, you know, I had a dub of it on a tape. And so I was familiar with that song and that voice, and I knew I even was familiar with the Def Jam, and I knew, I was like, okay, this is dope. He sounds like T La Rock. You know what I'm saying? But not just like T La Rock, but like it's T La Rock, but he was growling. And he sounded young. His voice was a little bit like, hey, you know, I need a beat. You know what I mean? And so I was like, oh, this dude is dope. I can't wait to hear more. Then I seen him in Crush Groove. And actually, I think I heard Radio before I saw Crush Groove. I heard Radio and was like, that's that guy? Like I was expecting more T La Rock imitations. I don't want to say it like that, because I don't think he was imitating T La Rock, but I mean, I was expecting the son of Tila Rock.
Right.
When I got the album. And what I got was like, this ain't the son of Tila Rock. This is a whole thing. This is somebody else, you know? It's funny. I would almost compare it to when I first got into, do you know who Shy D is? MC Shy D.
I don't know much of the work, but I've heard the name for sure. Absolutely.
A very similar vibe. When I first heard Shy D, it was like, oh yeah, this dude's rapping. But when I heard his album, I was like, yo, where did this guy come from? You know, and LL's Radio did that to me. It was like, where did this guy come from? And then when you flip it and look at the picture on the back and see him, it was like, yo, he's young. Like he's older than me, but not, you know, he wasn't in his 20s. You know what I'm saying? He's a teenager. You know what I mean? And that was, to me, forget about it. It was like, oh, so now somebody set a bar so high that how's anybody ever gonna hit that? You know what I mean? It was like, because like I said, Run-DMC was for me. I loved it, but their bar was set, and then LL came along and like set a higher bar. And it didn't mean that Run-DMC had to compete with them, because it felt more like, oh, they're opening up this and giving it a range so that there's room for, oh, this is great. Because then from there, it was like, I already loved the Fat Boys. You know what I'm saying? So you had Run-DMC, you had the Fat Boys, now you got LL. It just started opening up the whole picture and seeing, wow, there's room for these different voices who've had different experiences to rap in different ways. You know what I'm saying? To have different styles and stuff.
Yeah.
Radio was big. Yeah. Radio hit me hard. Yeah, because he came in, man, and I guess we're talking about radio now. So that first song on radio, you heard the first song and it was the intro. That was the introduction. The boombox on the front. First song he's talking about, I can't live without my boombox. The boombox was bigger than my face because it was on vinyl. Yeah. And I was a kid, so to have that big image with that first song, it was a wrap. I was already sold. So when you got to the second song and it was you Can't Dance, I was like, what? What is he doing? Like, okay, so it's okay to be funny when you're also serious. Like the Fat Boys were funny because that's what it was. But this dude came out serious, and then now he's got jokes too. And it wasn't even like hard jokes. It was mean. It was mean spirited. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, so I was in, man. Like I was in. And as the record kept going, every song I was in. And I will probably always see that record as being one of the things that, like when you talk about wearing a tape out, I wore that tape out, probably one of the first tapes that I ever wore out. And these were dub tapes, you know what I'm saying? But it was like, that's the tape that would get eaten, beat up. You'd have to re-spool it, get a Scotch tape it back together and run it back and forth through the boombox to make it so that the Scotch tape got pressed in so that it would work. You know what I'm saying? Damn. Tape splicing. I didn't know that I was tape splicing when I was 13, but that's what it became. You know what I mean? Like, where were we talking about?
You saying you thought about the jokes, you thought about like how he was bringing, it's so brilliant you said that, because coming from a later era, the production I got into, minimalist production, was woo. Like everything ahead of that was Bomb Squad, Public Enemy obviously being huge, but then going from that to Death Row to Bad Boy, the production was so extravagant growing up. Like De La Soul, Tribe, they were doing so many things that were so different. I remember when I first heard radio, I was like, it just sounds like shitloads of things are crashing into one another for like an hour, and I just didn't get it. And I was like, Rick Rubin, I heard he was great. Like, what is this? And my mind was so young, I just couldn't grasp where's the harmonies. There are harmonies, but where are the melodies, and where is but as you get older and you start appreciating, where RZA got his sound.
Sure.
And that's when you hear Rick Rubin's like things come to the fore. And I love the fact that you brought up the jokes, because I was listening to You Can't Dance, and it's like, that's a lie as well. They seem so innocent growing up as like, yeah, he can't dance, don't worry about it. But if you're 17 and you can't dance, oh my God, like it's just ruthless.
Listen, I gotta say something. I was thinking about this last night, and I can't remember, and I'm sure somebody could correct me. I'm sure there's a video or maybe on an episode of that cop show that he was on, but I can't remember seeing LL Cool J ever dance.
Oh, I saw it once today, and I thought this, Jingling Baby, the video, I was watching at the end. He does a little routine. I was like, oh, I've not seen LL break routines, but I'm with you. I am with
Jinglin' Baby was 1989, so then I will withdraw the criticism that I thought I had there. But I took some notes on You Can't Dance, and that they chose that to be the second song. That's something that when he's got 10 songs on here, and he chose You Can't Dance to be the second song. That's an interesting choice to me, because it's not just a joke song or we'll say a mean joke, or he's doing caps, he's doing the dozens, he's snapping on somebody, he's making fun of somebody. But he's punching down. That alone as the concept of the second song is interesting, but also it's a rhyme style he's doing. Like it's not emphasizing the rhyme style that he was already mastering. You know what I'm saying? It was and it's almost like, oh, okay, so this dude is also coming at this from an art angle, and he arted it out on a song that was a mean joke, and that's an interesting, same with That's a Lie. That's another kind of mean joke, really good. I loved it, but he arted the way that he rhymed on that. It wasn't his, it wasn't his normal thing. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty interesting. I feel like I'm glad that I revisited that, because I never saw that. I just was like, oh, this song is dope. You know what I'm saying? Or this song is okay or whatever. But I never saw like, oh, wait, he's doing patterns that are interesting for the time. And he's doing it's not a dad joke. It's not my kind of joke. It's not the Bismarcky kind of joke. It's like it's mean. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's arrogant. It's aggressive, just like him. So it fit. And I thought that was, in hindsight now, it's dope that he did that joke as a second song, because that's a way to expand and show us your personality, especially when you're a teenager still. Like to be able to have the opportunity to show different parts of who you are at that young of an age, and for it to work and click with people, you've just opened not just doorways for yourself, but for others who are coming behind you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For you opened a lot of lanes for a lot of people just in this album, Yeah,
absolutely. You've already expanded my thinking of the album just with that. And he's 17 doing that. That's great. I know a lot of hip hop is youth and newness above, tradition and oldness, but as a 17-year-old, you can't help but admire the charisma on every one of these tracks. There's so much charisma there that I was like, and for him to be so boastful and to be so, it is one of the most braggadocious. All these three albums are that, really. They go to braggadocious overload at some point. But it's funny when I look at the album cover, which I love, and think he didn't even put his face on it. Like, for someone like Bad and Walking Like a Panther, you do think, and then you have like Mama Said Knock You Out, where he's got his body, like chiseled body at the front, and you're like, the first one was just no face. It was just like a boombox, and that was it. And kind of loved that. It's brilliant. I thought, yeah, absolutely.
You brought up Mama Said Knock You Out, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I want to say like that was a reset, and I think we all knew that. He had to hit reset after Walking with a Panther. And we'll get into it. We'll talk about why, but it's everything. Like you just said, from the artwork, he went from having no picture to having himself on the cover to him fully. That Walking with a Panther artwork we'll get to that. All right. So
it's special.
So another thing I wrote down was about Dear Yvette. That's the one where I hear the Roxanne Shante influence.
Right.
I don't really want to diss nobody. You might think I had a little too much Bacardi, but that's not the problem. The problem's Yvette. How bad can the girl's reputation get? That style, that's the first I heard him do that style. And now, because he usually was riding the drums really hard. And here he was going to this kind of like, I'm thinking and I'm saying it while I'm thinking it. You know what I'm saying? And that to me always, I give Shantae credit for that style. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I think she, I lived in Minneapolis, so I wasn't there in the club seeing who invented what. But in my experience, she was the first person I ever heard to kind of do that style. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it was like, and that's my style. Now I stole that style. You know what I'm saying? I do a lot of that now. I don't really ride the beat hard. I don't get in front of the beat. You know what I'm saying? Like I fall back a little bit and Snoop also has that style. You know what I'm saying? Like he's huge on that, but so when I hear that, I can't help but think, oh, that's Shantae. Even though technically this is at the same time as Shantae. You know what I'm saying? Like she was putting out 12 inches at the same time that this album was coming out. You know what I mean? So
for sure,
I can't say he stole the style, or by any means, I would never accuse LL of any such thing. But it's just capturing an era. It's capturing a moment in rap, a piece of rap, all on this first debut album. You know what I'm saying? By a teenager. You know what I mean? It's like it's pretty genius, and I'm sure he had great people around him. You know what I'm saying? Because how could he not? Like he's so charismatic and there's so much there that I think everybody who was around him realized this is special and we have to really, really take care of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's what has to happen in order for something like that to work as well as it did.
Man, much love. Thank God for Ad Rock finding that tape. You know, everyone talks about that story, but you do think could have just been missed. This young guy, ferocious guy, you know, just on a tape that one of the Beasties picks up and plays to Rick.
Right.
And that serendipity, that kind of fate, or whatever you want to call it, man, it can't go overlooked. I think there's interesting when you talk there about L, because when we grew up in L, we realized what we cotton on. First of all, he's very formulaic. He knows his formula: hard shit for the streets, banging shit for the clubs and the women, and the rest of it, whatever else. There wasn't a lot of insight into an artist. Like, he wasn't conscious. He wasn't like, you know, you're not going to get much about his everyday, like what he's going through. But when I listen to I Want You on this album, we talk about hidden gems and stuff like that, even though it is a precursor to some of the things that people had a stick to beating with in the 90s, I feel, which was love songs and maybe not putting 8 on an album, you know, like he might have done later in his career. But when it's something like I Want You, Rick Rubin's production on that is amazing. And I was like, even just the last 40 seconds of that track, you can just let that ride out and it's just sublime. It's sublime 80s masterpiece production. And it's just on a track that a young man is talking to a young girl and saying how much he wants her. And I was like, oh yeah, that's just like all the threads come from the formula, comes from stuff like that. And yeah, I just wanted to shout that song out because it's a song that as a kid, I definitely would have afforded. But as a grown man now, I listen to it and think, fair play, man. You know, I don't know how easy that was in '85 to be just putting your soul out there and doing a kind of a love song in a hard hip hop record, you know?
You know, I think it might have been easier then than it was later.
Right.
I think later on when more people were doing it, and then when it got kind of pigeoned as like only softies do that. Like this was before it got the bad rap. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I would almost go as far as to say LL kind of invented the rap love song. And that don't mean he's the first rapper to rap about love. But it was he invented I'm going to tell this story about my love for you. It's a real love song. It's not just love is love and I love you and all that. No, he was like pining for somebody. You know what I'm saying? And there's 2 on this record. I Want You and I Could Give You More.
That's it, yeah.
And both of them are, to me, they weren't even hidden gems. I loved them songs even when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, because I wanted to make out with girls. And so to hear this other teenager talk about like him pining for somebody, I was like, I'm pining for people. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it was fine for me. And the drums were still hard. So it wasn't like soft songs. Plus the piano joint, I Could Give You More had this piano, dun, ding, ding, ding. Like, and I've always been a sucker for the piano on rap records. You know what I'm saying? Like Bridge Is Over, Biz, you know what I'm saying? Like, anybody that put a piano on there and you got my ear right away.
Right.
Period. You know, the other one, the one you were referencing, I Want You, has a sample from another Def Jam record. It's the click clock of the clock on a Jimmy Spicer joint. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I could be wrong, but I think Rick Rubin might have produced that one too. You know what I mean? So it's like, but Rick did that. He would recycle sounds. Like you hear sounds on this record that ended up on Beastie Boy records later. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's interesting. It was an interesting time. It was an interesting time. And Rick made a lot of really good albums, but it's interesting that I don't think he really he didn't really get to that, you know, godly status that people have him at until later when he started going, well, I can also do rock records and I can do a Johnny Cash record and I could do anything. You know what I'm saying? That's when it was like, oh, this dude didn't just make rap beats. This dude is like the Butch Vig of, you know what I'm saying? Like he does whatever and he makes it sound good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's interesting you touched on Rick, because we can't talk about this album without Rick and him being so integral to it. I remember like hearing Raising Hell and stuff like that. It all sounded like Radio definitely had some lift into what he went on to do with the other stuff he did in the 80s, especially. For you, what is it what's special about Rick Rubin to you? Like, I know you said that he goes into other things, but when you were a kid, what did you hear in a Rick Rubin record you're not hearing in other records?
He was making rock records. Right. He was making metal records, punk rock records, and he was doing it all through rap. It's like you had the Beastie Boys had metal. There was metal on their records. This LL Cool J that we're talking, this record, Radio, is a punk rock record.
Yeah,
I would compare Radio to Nirvana's Bleach. If you follow Nirvana and look at their career and their first 3 albums, from Bleach to Nevermind to In Utero, there's kind of a similarity for me from Radio to Bigger and Deffer to Walking with a Panther, right. Specifically in the production side of things and in the way that they chose to attack you. You know what I'm saying? And so, because when Bigger and Deffer happened, the production was still LL, it was still fit him, but now it started to get wider and you started to see more noises come through, like almost like pre-Bomb Squad. Like I feel like I heard there's things on that record on Bigger and Deffer that could have been Bomb Squad beats. They weren't. It was Bobcat and his crew. You know what I'm saying? But I kind of went off the boat there. I apologize.
Just talk about Rick. Yeah, you're saying now.
Yeah,
Rick.
but talking about Rick. So for me with Rick, that's what I heard was rock. He put rock inside of these rap records, because prior to him, there was no rock in these rap records. People were just kind of rapping the funk beats. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he was the one that made it go, oh no, if you just strip it down to this drum machine and some noises, now it's in your face. It's huge. It's big. And with Radio, he was able to make something that was minimal, but still sound bigger than everything that was coming out that year.
Yeah. It's like Dangerous is that. Rock the Bells is that. What you've just said there. Like it has all of that in it. And fascinating to know when you're older, people tackle that. Foxy tackled that. And people were tackling like Rock the Bells. And it's such a cool title anyway. We've got to talk about LL Cool J song titles in a bit, because 14 Shots to the Dome has some incredible, like even Milky Cereal. We're going to go into that. But this is the thing. Like when you have someone like Rick who can give you Rock the Bells and it just be so hard. And what you said there, absolutely personified in those tracks. We could move on to Bad, unless there was some other tracks you want to talk about off Radio, but you've mentioned Bad, Bigger and Deffer, and
I did mention that. There's one thing that I got a lot of stuff written here, and I'm not going to attempt to go over it all. You asked what non-90s rappers could rap on this, and I would say anybody who I wrote down Lupe and Kendrick, and the reason is because both of them are still they both would be able to do what they do very well and roll with the fact that it's so minimal. Like Kendrick would still sound really good on these beats, and so would Lupe, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And they both they can rhyme well enough and they can attack well enough that it would work. You know what I mean? And the other thing, I guess, if I was to pick a hidden gem on this, was the I Need a Beat remix, and I will explain why. That's because, as far as rap remixes go, usually what you do is you change the beat, or you add a new verse to it, or there's different ways of approaching it. And this, they took his first single, which wasn't, it was a single, and then his album came out, and you always put your first single on the album somewhere, but instead of just putting it on there as is, it sounds like a DJ is live mixing it. And so he's like juggling and cutting it in and doing things. And they recorded that and put that on the album as the remix. And to this day, I can't think of anybody I've never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that again, where your first single, of course, it's on your album, but you changed it and you made it. Now the DJ is the star of the song, not the rapper. You know what I'm saying? And it's like pretty intense. And I think I will always look at that and be inspired by the risk that him and Rick took by deciding to put the single on like that. You know what I'm saying? As opposed, because the single was a hit. People loved it.
Yeah.
And so to risk putting it on there as like suddenly this like DJ club version where it's like, yo, he's cutting it and changing it. And it's not even perfect. It's human, just like a DJ live doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I always love that. Yep.
Oh, man.
And also, there's a lot of cringy stuff on this record. We don't have to go into it, but to me, LL was not a hot bar kind of guy. His presentation was attitude, not bars. In fact, I don't think rappers were even barring out back then. They were presenting an entertainer, a cool star of the show. And so to me, LL's presentation wasn't bars. It was the young, hungry, adrenaline rush teenager, coolest guy in the room, also could beat you up. Also, all the girls liked him. Like, it was everything that us kids wanted to be, Yeah. And so a lot, he says a lot of cringy stuff, but I got to say the song Dear Yvette, when I was a kid, felt like this cautionary tale of this wisdom being given to us teenagers to not be promiscuous. Now in hindsight, the song is so problematic. Like, there is so much wrong with, you could never say these things today. Yeah. And it's very interesting, me looking at that, like going, wait, though, when I was a kid, this was actually one of the more like gems in the sense of he's dropping knowledge. He's doing it again in a way that's kind of like snark and angry and a little bit mean, almost to the point that I wonder if maybe if that song wasn't some sort of weird revenge against like an ex-girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some really mean stuff on there, but I still took it as a, like, don't, make sure when I start, hanging out with girls, don't sleep around, don't be promiscuous. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I took that song. But now in hindsight, I hear that song and I'm just like, yo, like, it's cringy, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but you can say about a lot of hip hop, right? And I think it's weird how you take these things on board. And I remember sitting there and thinking I'm learning loads of stuff from Pac. And, you've got Brenda's Got a Baby, but at the same time, the next track is, I don't know, Scandalous or something, where it's just where you listen to someone and you think these are two absolutely differing things you're saying. I know Ella didn't really mean to do that on this album as much, but I can completely get it as a young person receiving this information differently. Absolutely. And we're at different ages, context. And going on to context, though, the interesting thing is when he's bringing this album out in the 80s, did people have, like, it was so young then, did people even have like 3 album runs? Like, did people in the 80s even look at things and go, God, what an amazing series of albums? Was it not just one-offs or 1 and 2s?
By 1989, we were looking at the runs, because by then you had Big Daddy Kane had 2 albums out, maybe not just 2. Shan had 2. Karis One might have had 3 already. Rakim, I think, had 3 already, or was at least coming on his 3rd. Run-DMC had like 4, I think, at that point. So now we were starting to realize that our connection to these artists is fueling them and keeping them going. And so now it's our job to judge them. It's our job to understand and to stare at what they're doing and to start to be picky and to start to be, which we did, and we'll get to it, but we collectively judged Walking with a Panther very harshly when that record came out. We held that against him. We took that personal when he made that record. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, no, but this is the thing. They call them geeks and nerds. Like, they're not really. They're the lifeblood of hip hop. They're the people who turn up at the shows. They're the people who back you when your back's against the wall. But if you wrong them, especially, I'm not sure how hardcore 80s were, but 90s, oh my God, if you sold out, this is the thing. We're going to go into like, can LL be like, if you were to put an argument towards him being the GOAT, apart from him coining the term itself. But I was thinking about it. I was like, do you know what? With LL, even though he did do these things, I don't ever remember thinking of a time growing up thinking he's completely sold out. He's Vanilla Iced it, or, he's MC Hammered it. And it's really odd, even though he did blatantly do things where you were like, why are you doing this? But He had so much credit in the bank.
Yeah, he had a pass. Him and Will Smith had passes. They were so influential and did so much good stuff that we would judge the bad stuff, but we would never fire them. They never got fired because they helped build it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, I mean, you could say that about a lot of the golden era artists that, you know, they made some questionable decisions and took plenty of them artistically, specifically made some bad choices. But also now in hindsight, you can look at it and go, yeah, but they're people and they didn't know what they were doing. Everybody was just kind of feeling their way through it and doing what seemed to make the most sense to them at the time. You know, LL included. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but when you look at somebody like LL or Fresh Prince, Will Smith, now you see it. Now you realize this is why you never got fired, because you're the president. You're the president of the company. You know what I'm saying? You're you know, and so
yeah. You made a really good point there, by the way. Like, they're doing it. They're people. They, first of all, as we said, they're young. They're from impoverished backgrounds, majority of them. So guidance is like probably very, very limited, or like you have to be so careful, and they're writing the rules as they go. Of course, there's going to be these things, because then 10, 20 years later, you can reap the rewards of a Kendrick or a Drake, as some people have likened LL to, you know, and you think, no wonder you can do what you can do, because these people made all the mistakes before you and you've seen how reactions go. But when we go into 87, Badder and Deffer, 87, one of my favorite LL cuts, Jack the Ripper, like, as that's already out, I think it was out before the album came out. I don't know. I think it was. But at that time, where was LL in 87 before and after he dropped Bigger and Deffer for you?
LL, for me, he was like, okay, he was one of the dope guys. He's got a dope album. In my head, he was part of the new school, which is kind of funny to think of now. You know what I'm saying? Because now we would probably call him an old school rapper or somebody who came up in the old school. But at the time, that was the new school, the late 80s. The old school was the, you know, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Disco rap and electro rap. You know, LL was, I guess you would call it electro rap because it's all drum machine based, but it was starting to go somewhere else. And I'm pretty sure Jack the Ripper actually came out after Bigger and Deffer. I think Jack the Ripper was a response to Kool Moe Dee.
For sure.
Specifically, because after Bigger and Deffer, Kool Moe Dee saw LL and was like, yo, young buck, who are you to say you're the best of all time? And he just for no reason started taking shots at LL just to bring him down a notch or something. So LL came back and was just like, nah, son. Anyway, when Bigger and Deffer hit, first thing I heard was I'm Bad, the first song on the album. And I heard it and saw the video on probably MTV. I don't know where else I could have seen it. Maybe Video Jukebox. I can't remember what I was watching for videos at the time. But it blew my mind. And I had to go get the 12-inch. I was like, oh, he's back already. You know what I'm saying? Because at the time, that was fast. 2 years? You're already back? You know what I'm saying? It was really about a year and a half, because I'm pretty sure Radio was a winter album and Bad was kind of like springtime, I think, when I heard that, because it was like it ended up becoming a summer album for me. You know?
Okay.
But it was what I was expecting. Like, Bad was exactly what I needed, what I thought he was capable of, but it also took it further and it showed me more than I needed and showed me that he was capable of more than I thought. So on first listen, I was like, oh yeah, this is right. Once the album came out, I was like, oh wait, this is the next step for this guy. He really, really, really took the next step. And that's what you do. That's what you have to do. Your second album is where you go, okay, my first album showed you, hey, I'm here. My second album is like, hey, I'm supposed to be here. You know what I mean? Like this, I'm here for a reason. And then your third album is supposed to be like legendary status. I clinched it. It's a wrap. It's over. You know what I mean? Like,
did you feel that when you were making music with Atmosphere? Did you have none of that in your heads when you were making?
Absolutely not, man. I did it all wrong, man. For my first 5 albums, I was like, "Are you guys sure you don't want to fire me? You sure you want me here? You know, that's because that's just who I am. You know what I mean? Like I still to this day am kind of like just waiting, looking over my shoulder, waiting for my boss to come in and say, "Hey, pack up your desk." You know what I'm saying? It's just like Because it's, you know, but I guess that speaks to not just insecurity, but also ethic. You know what I'm saying? My work ethic is that I don't allow myself to, there's no entitlement here. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, we don't have to talk about that right now. I'm not paying you. Okay. So
fair enough.
Bigger and Deffer. Boom. First song, introduction, kills it. It's a rap. I'm bad. Second song, Candy. What? Really? This is where you're going to go next?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize it, but that was him letting me know, oh, I am really all about the ladies. I love touring. I love these women. I love the party. I love these ladies. I don't know if that's really what he was on, but that's what he's presenting. And again, Candy, like Dear Yvette, full of problematic stuff. The difference is Dear Yvette was kind of like this weird slut shaming thing. And Candy was this weird kind of slut celebrating. And so for me to be like, wait, hold up. You're the one telling me not to be promiscuous or not to find myself in situations with people who I know to be promiscuous. And then just a year and a half later, you're like, no, you got to go get it, son. She's a freak. You know, it was just kind of like, oh man, well, how you really messing me up as a teenager. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the song banged again, hard drums, boom, boom. You know, it was just like, and the James Brown sample and
a lot more samples.
Yeah. Really super dope. And still, just like the first album, was the samples that were on the first album were all samples that you could just find on all the Ultimate Breaks and Beats albums. Same thing with the samples on this record. Like when you really look at how much of the good stuff from the 80s were built off of the Ultimate Breaks and Beats compilation albums, you really got to give those people credit. Specifically, well, you got to give Breakbeat Lou credit for what happened there. You know what I'm saying? Because his influence on all of the music that built the foundation of what we consider to be the recordings of hip hop is all it's amazing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, going off topic. What happened after Candy? Get Down. Hey. Now I'm hearing this and being like, hold up. Rick Rubin is not the producer. And I'm hearing it because now I'm hearing turntable stuff where Rick wanted to hear scratching on records, but it didn't matter if the scratching was amazing. It just had to be on the record. It's like, oh, it's like, it's a guitar. You got to put the guitar on the record. You got to put the scratching on the record. Make sure there's some scratching, you know? And I knew that about Rick. Even when you hear 99 Problems, like it still fits that. Oh, the sound has to be there, but it doesn't have to be amazing. Suddenly the scratching on Bigger and Deffer was amazing. Like it was like, it pushed the envelope for 1987 of what scratching is supposed to be, you know? And he had to, because people outside of his camp were pushing that envelope. You had DJs from around the world starting to really do dope things, and LL had to present that in his music, because that's LL always stayed, for better or for worse, stayed relevant to the time, to the era that he was making music in. And we hold that against him and don't realize that what we're doing is we're holding it against him, that he managed to stay relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we don't all stay relevant as listeners.
Yeah.
We don't only keep up with what's happening. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's when I'm going, oh, okay, Bobcat. Who is this guy? The LA Posse. Who are these people? Because that's who was doing the production on Bad. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep my eye open for these guys, you know?
Yeah.
Get Down was a great song. Let me catch up with
DJ Pooh, man. Like, you forget a lot of these legends, where they start, where the journeys they go on. My idea of DJ Pooh's not bad, you know. I did not think of this when I got into his music. When you go back, you think, oh my God, him. And just like where LL learnt how to make albums. He's had Rick Rubin, and then he's got people at LA Posse now. And then I know he's done work with Bomb Squad in this one as well, where you're like, he was learning, you know, he wasn't just sitting there as a bystander going, yeah, I'll rap this, I'll rap that. The concepts, how we're going to sequence it. Like you said, the sequencing is really odd at times. Where these three go so much better together than the other three. But don't care, and I kind of love that, and that's epitomized in the album cover to me. Before we move on to the music, because the album cover might be one of the coolest album covers. Even someone from my age, every young lad wants to look that fresh,
Yep.
and be in the basement punching a bag, and Biz Markie in the back. Apparently Biz Markie was in his basement when he was like making this stuff, and you think, what a life, man, and it's kind of aspirational, which makes me
hold up, that's Biz Markie on there?
No, not on the cover, but you hear. But I think when Biz passed, LL was saying he used to be in.
He was at. Got you. Okay.
So he's not on the cover. Yeah, no.
Glenn E. Friedman took that photo, and at the time he was kind of like the hip hop photographer. Period. You know what I'm saying? He did a lot of stuff. There's a book. Oh man. I could be wrong, but I think I have a photography book by him that might be called "Fuck Your Heroes" or "Fuck You Heroes." I could be wrong about that though. I should have looked that up before I got here, and I apologize.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I know that he's got a book that when you go through it, you're like, oh my god, I've seen all these photos before. It's like one of those things where it's like those photos, and we're talking pre-internet. These photos made the rounds. You know what I mean? And so it's like that's iconic as a photographer. And so for them to tap him for the cover art, I think it's like, yeah, that's what you do when you are a star, when you are on your way to become our first rap pop star. Of course, you got photos from Glenn E. Friedman, who also was famous for doing all the punk rock bands, all, you know what I mean? It's like, and so that's tight to me.
The
cover art to that, you nailed it. Every kid, every testosterone fueled male kid wanted to be exactly what the cover of that record was, and the back cover. Yeah. And it was all gold. There's gold foil. That style. I don't remember seeing that kind of, like, the word bad, the way it was gold on the cover was like, it made it stand out. You know what I'm saying? Like, technically one of the best rap album covers of all time, I think. The way the lighting in the back was green. How do you do that? Because Glenn E. Friedman was not the type of dude to fake it, to color things, or to, like, it was really green back there. You know what I'm saying? He somehow made it look green, and the way it went with the red that LL was wearing.
The chain, the Audi, all of it. I love how they restored the Audi recently. I know he's Hall of Fame, big up. It was enough times he was trying to get in, and then to see him restore the Audi, and Eminem's like, I think I saw something on socials the other day where Eminem was like, oh, these chains, they're from the I'm Bad video. And you're like, what? Like, that's the gravitas of someone like LL. Like, his chains are going on what some people may call, one of the best rappers of all time, who's just like, I can't believe I've got the chains. And you're like, this is, I mean? It's amazing. And it's bi-coastal, which we did America's Most Wanted on here recently. And we just talked about how amazing it was for Cube to go to Bomb Squad. But I was like, well, listen to Bad. Like, he's done similar things. He's gone to the West, an East, very, very quintessential East Coast MC, going over there and broadening his sound. So I don't think you can sleep on that kind of thing. Were there any tracks then off here that you really wanted to dive into? Like, we have 5 mic moments. I just wanted to say, like, I know we didn't do it for the first one, but like almost perfection, where you would go, like, is it I'm Bad for you, or is there something else, like, or is it I Need Love?
Man, I'm Bad is probably, it's untouchable. You know what I'm saying? It's untouchable. Like, that song is like that song embodies everything that rap music should embody. Every part of it. It's got it's got humor. It's got great bars. It's got super cringe bars that he says that he makes sound great. He says some of the cringiest stuff on that song. On this album in general, he says things where you're like, really? It kind of gives us a hint to where he's going to go in the future. It's like, but he manages to, on one song, he says, I'm not a hula hoop. What? You know what I'm saying? On I'm Bad, he says, I've got a gold nameplate that says, I wish you would. Wait, hold on 1 second. I got to show you something. Hold up.
Okay. That is one of my favorite bars, though, for anyone listening. I've got a gold nameplate that says, wish you would. It's just, come on, amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing what Slug's got coming for us now, though. Because if it's a nameplate saying, I wish you would.
All right. I got to show this to you. I totally forgot about this. Okay. So he says, I got a gold nameplate that says, I wish you would. So I had somebody make me a wooden, it's out of a skateboard. It's a wooden nameplate that says, I wish you gold. So I could say, I got a wood nameplate that says, I wish you gold. I'm bad. All right.
That is superb. Right. That is superb. That's the love right there.
Hold on. I've got some other things. You want to hit, give me an hour plus a pen and a pad. You want to hit, give me an hour and a pen and a pad. My hat is like a shark's fin.
Yeah, but yeah. Jelly bean. Crush you like a jelly bean.
Crush you like a jelly bean. Forget Oreos. Eat Cool J cookies. Doug, we were kids. We're like, he's making cookies? You know what I'm saying? I would have, Doug, Ma, can we get the Cool J cookies?
Yeah.
He's bad, you know?
Absolutely. No, I love that. But that's it. But even the video when you're seeing him crush the jelly bean, you know, like he personifies all of it. He really owns it all. He's like, I crush you like a jelly bean, puts his foot down and stomps and crushes it. And you're like, that. I kind of love that. I kind of love that, owning it, you know, and just kind of going in with it, which he does on I Need Love. And I know that track, I don't know. It's one thing that I never really got in tune to, and I still don't really listen to it too much, but I do absolutely want to point, I like the idea of making a song that's actually more for women to listen to on a hard album. And you could say it's cynical, you could say trying to sell, but it's like, well, at least he's approaching people who probably aren't approached very well in a lot of hip hop, you know, and he's like, this is for you guys, and this is the other dimension to myself. I don't know if you ever thought it'd be as big as it was, but what did you think when you heard it first time?
I didn't like it. But it wasn't because, like, I didn't mind. Like I said, I loved the first two love songs on the first album. The reason I didn't like I Need Love is because it sounded different.
Yeah.
There was a ton of reverb on his voice. It was a fake Casio keyboard sounding ding, ding, ding. I didn't like that, you know? And it embodies the second most cringiest line ever said in a rap song. He says, I love you more than a man who's 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
And that shit broke my heart. I was like, I mean, he made up for it all over the album. So I didn't hold it against him. I was just like, oh, okay. So to me, that was the skippable song. To the point where I never fully memorized it the way I had the rest of the album memorized. You know, I'm sure if you play it now, I got most of it. I could rap along to it, but I might miss a few spots because it just got skipped. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny because back then it was all vinyl. So it was super, like, skipping something was a physical thing. It wasn't just pushing one button. You know what I mean? It was a physical thing. So skipping something really meant something. It was a real statement. You know what I mean? Like, and so, there's two skippable joints on this album. That one and Go Cut Creator Go. And that's just for me, in my opinion. I just never liked the way they used the sample on it. I just didn't like that. It reminded me of Wipeout by the Fat Boys. I didn't like that one either, where they were drawing from this era of rock that I just didn't want nothing to do with. I didn't mind when these guys were putting heavy guitars in there for the most part. I mean, oftentimes I didn't like it either. But because a lot of times, like with the Beastie Boys on the first album, the songs I skipped mostly were probably the heavier guitar ones. But this one wasn't even a heavy guitar, man. It was like that, the Chuck Berry joint. And all I saw was, you know, white girls with skirts doing this dance thing. I couldn't get it. But there's a thing on Go Cut Creator Go that I always loved, and it's and it falls into my favorite sample on the album category. So my favorite sample of the album is also on here, and my least favorite sample was on here.
Right.
But it's LL Cool J is where they sample Rock the Bells. My thing is, who did that? Who did the scratching? Because it says all scratches done by Bobcat.
Right.
But when you listen to that, did Bobcat do that, or did they lift it from when Jazzy Jeff did it at the New Music Seminar in 1986? Because that's how he won that DJ battle. Was he busted out that Rock the Bells? He broke down the Rock the Bells thing in 86. That tape circulated all the way to Minneapolis and beyond. I had a tape of the New Music Seminar. I still have it. Where Jazzy Jeff does that.
Right.
Did I say Jam Master Jay before? I meant Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, Jazzy Jeff. Yeah.
Jazzy Jeff does that routine, wins that battle. So in 87, Bobcat supposedly is doing that routine now here. And so did they ever, thank Jeff? Or did they sample Jeff or whatever happened to that? I'd love to hear Jazzy Jeff talk about that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, see what he says about that. Cause but it blew my mind. Cause to me, it was like, oh, that's only a year old. You can sample something from a year ago. Oh, like that. I'd never seen that. People always sampled old records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, you just seen somebody do that. So did you cover it? Did you sample it? I don't know. But Go Cut Creator Go is not my favorite song. The rapping on there's fine, but it's straight up like 6 to 8 times you have to hear that.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Ah, man. I hated it, man.
Yeah, I feel you.
No disrespect to Chuck Berry. Like I love Chuck Berry, but it's like his biggest hit. That's his biggest hit. You're going to put his biggest hit and you're going to make me hear it this many times. Like once would have been dope.
Yeah.
Because then it would have been like a DJ thing. He did it one time.
Yeah.
But it's like you built the song on that sound. And
yeah. He has that excess about him, L. Like going into the next album and a little bit on this album. Like sometimes 4 verses, you're like, I love when a person goes in, but they're not any different to any of the other verses. And after a while, you're like, I'm probably just going to skip this before the last verse. That happens a lot on Panther, but I think on this, I don't know, when you hear like the breakthrough, there's 4 minutes of like straight rhyming, but I'm fine with that one. It's odd, isn't it? Like how you can go differently on these. And it's weird when you think about as LL as a rapper, how good is he as a rapper? Because people, I think there's a urban myth. I don't even know if it's a myth or it might actually happen, but when he came here in, I think it's 88, so after this album, Hammersmith Apollo, he got like bottles thrown at him and stuff like that because he was leaning into stuff like I Need Love and like bringing out like stretch sofas and stuff, and people reacted viscerally at the shows. But when you have the breakthrough and when you have him just straight rhyming as a rapper, how good is he to you? Like, could you even say he's King of New York in 87? Like, or is he, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like in 87, to me, I don't know if I had a King of New York. To me, in 87, yeah, I would say LL was top of New York in 87. He was the king at the time. Because I don't think, I feel like because you had Rakim and you had KRS-One starting to bubble, Big Daddy Kane, but they didn't have the catalog yet. You know what I'm saying? It was like just the beginnings for them, and in time, I do think that they created, along with Cool G Rap, they created a climate that LL had to figure out his place in. And that was interesting because those guys, nobody has ever had to figure out their place in this yet. Yes. Everybody was allowed to just do them. And LL was going, okay, this career is starting to turn into a longer career. How do I navigate this? And so I think he might've been the first one that we got to visually and audibly find out where he's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And to him, he's supposed to be king. So it was an interesting time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I'm very grateful to have been there to observe that from far away from where I am. You know what I'm saying? But I was grateful to have been alive to observe this era in rap, not just because of the LL thing, obviously, but just to watch everybody do this, because I learned so much about the world through these rappers.
Like blueprints are being formed, aren't they, at that point? People are writing these blueprints. We said it earlier, these people haven't done this yet. So they're writing blueprints that someone like Jay-Z can go, actually, that works. Let's go with that. So absolutely. Was there any other tracks? I need to talk to you about Do Wop. Was there any other tracks that you thought on here like that you can't stop rewinding? How do you feel about this album now? You said you hear things differently in these things now.
To me, the best thing on this album was the doo-wop back then.
Yeah.
And now it's still the doo-wop. When I revisited this album last night, I have so much love for so many parts of this album. I love the humor of the Bristol Hotel and the humor in My Rhyme Ain't Done, but I also love how he got to show us that he's a fucking weirdo. He was saying things that are just like, that's what you chose to say. And not only that, but we accepted it. We accepted what you were saying. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I know a fat girl, she wears an orange skirt. It was just like, really? That's what you're going to say right now?
Yeah.
Like, but he made it sound cool. Now it's obviously super problematic, some of the things that he said. But at the time, you were just like, oh, yeah. On him and Mickey Mouse went and had.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, really? Like, he got to show us what kind of a weirdo he is. And I do think that part of his personality is super important to why he is the icon that he is, because he is a weirdo. He is a nerd, but he's also a jock. But he's also, it's like he embodied the elements of all the people that we saw and came across. He was so much of all of it that it totally worked. Anybody could relate to this dude.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
Yeah. You're so right. This is just going into what I was saying about the weird. Like, when did this start? This weirdness of pink cookies in a plastic bag getting crushed by buildings. Like that. I know his story is when he's making these kind of track names, he said he was high, and which is odd when you hear him accept that. It's a bit like Dre, but I remember watching the I'm Bad video again recently, and it's really anti-drug. It's all anti-drug messaging. And that
was the era, though. That was the era of rap. Run-DMC and them were anti-drug. You know, one of my favorite stories that Ant tells about going to the Run-DMC concert was at one point they were on stage and they were doing some crowd response kind of thing. And one of them was like, yo, who got weed? If anybody got weed, throw it up on stage. Run says, who's got weed? If anybody's got weed, throw it up on stage. And then you see him look nervous for a second and go, so we can step on it. And because it was like, no, they actually want the weed. But it was a very, because rappers didn't want to get canceled. There was a fear of getting canceled, like pre-cancel culture, but a fear of being like written off as a fad. The powers that be are letting us do this and letting us make money. If they decide to pull the plug, then we're all stuck with nothing. And I think that fear is why you had rappers doing anti-drug messaging. You know what I'm saying? And, on one hand, it's like, well, it's kind of cool. But on the other hand, it's like, well, it wasn't very realistic, because what it did is it just painted it with this broad stroke that drugs are bad, as opposed to, you really got the ears of these kids. We could speak to them in ways, we could give them credit for how intelligent they really are and speak to them in ways that can guide them, that doesn't sound like you're selling them some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And so I agree with you, because you do hear LL thought it was tobacco. The shit was cess. You hear him say things where it's like, oh, he smokes weed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Which to me was like, oh, that's cool. Cause I was starting to experiment with weed, and I was kind of like weirded out that all my rappers were dissing weed, cause I kind of liked it. You know what I'm saying? Like I was young, but when I, like in the late 80s, when I first started experimenting with pot, it was like I couldn't let nobody know, because it was in my head, everybody looked down on it. Why do you think they call it dope? You know what I mean? Like, everybody looked down on it. Now you can go to Walgreens and buy gummies. You know what I'm saying? Like,
mad.
Go figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing, both these albums had Easter eggs on them. Okay. Radio and Bigger and Deffer had Easter eggs at the end of the albums where he just talked and did some funny shit. You know what I'm saying? Yes. It wasn't songs, but that's what we called them, Easter eggs. Like, because you didn't know it was necessarily going to be there. You didn't know what, oh, what is that? Oh, he's just clowning. Me and Ants, we did that. And I think it's because of LL. But if you go through our early albums, specifically vinyl, if you find 12 inches, Atmosphere 12 inches through the aughts, there's Easter eggs at the ends of all the 12 inches. We'd record little things and put dumb little things on there, because it was like an ode to these LL albums.
Right.
I got other stuff written down, but we don't have to.
No, absolutely. No, that's fascinating on its own. The kind of influence it has, where you like listening to that stuff, the humor in stuff. I remember hearing the humor in LL was one of the first things. And one of the things I want to talk about, if we can call him one of the greatest, is we can't sleep on his kind of ability to be diverse. Like, there's tracks later on where he's almost singing. It's almost like you're not even rhyming that. You're almost just singing. But then he'll hop on a remix and Prodigy's on it, and he's got to go straight street. And you're like,
right.
That diversity, to be able to switch them lanes and switch them gears and know, actually, this is the kind of flavor I'm going to bring for that. It's fascinating listening to these albums and seeing where that came from. You're saying there about having the fun. I must assume someone like Cube has heard that and thought Gangsta's Fairy Tale probably works a bit more like, you know, this, and going into, you know, into Panther, he does a few of those things as well. If we are going into Panther though, and this is, you alluded to it earlier, 1989, 2 years later, you tell me how that came across, that album for you, from seeing the artwork to playing it.
All right, so LL was a hero of mine. You know, he was everything we've stated. He was all the parts of everything. He had the aggression, but he also knew how to talk to ladies. He was super cool, but he also could show us his nerdy side. You know what I'm saying? You know, he had songs like Bristol Hotel where you could hear him smiling. Like I've never had another artist where I could hear him smiling in the song. You know what I mean? So obviously when I found out he's got another album coming out, I was like, word, it's on. But at the time, you already had, I mean, Boogie Down Productions had 2, maybe 3 albums out by now. Rakim had at least 2.
Yeah.
You know, Digital Underground had happened. You know what I'm saying? Like there's things going on. NWA had happened. You know, Eazy-E. Like the landscape was now, it's on. It's full on. Like EPMD, all of these different groups influencing. Oh, by the way, I want to say, if there were 2 rappers who could rap alongside him on Bad from today, I would put Royce the 5'9" or Merce actually on Bigger and Deffer. Interesting. Because I think both of them could bring that confidence and arrogance and adrenaline. You know what I'm saying? Like, and both of them, Royce is very lyrical, but his, you know, his blade is still his ability to come in sharp and hard. You know what I'm saying? And Merce has the stamina, the rap stamina to be able to rap forever and not repeat himself. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's kind of what LL to me was on Bigger and Deffer. So thanks for letting me, I wanted to remember to mention that.
For sure.
So anyway, going into Walking with a Panther, when it came out, well, first it was a single. And it was I'm the Type of Guy. And I was like, what? I don't know what to think of this. Because his first singles were always, all his singles, I'm Bad, Rock the Bells. You know what I'm saying? His singles were hard. And I'm the Type of Guy, I was just like, You know, funny enough, upon revisiting it last night, I was like, oh, man, this could have been a Pharrell song. Like, I feel like he should. I don't know if he's done anything with that, and if he hasn't, he should recreate that song or something. Because I could almost hear him doing it. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know what to think of that, so I just didn't think of it. You know, I just waited for the album, and then when the album came out, it was interesting because it was one of these things where I was like, oh yeah, okay. First song starts off, and it's like, all right, this is a rap beat. This. EPMD could have rapped on that, you know, it was dropping them, right?
Yes.
With the funkadelic drums, you know, I'm just like, okay. And he comes in and he raps and he raps and he raps and it's fine. He's rapping just fine. He's doing LL raps. The problem is my ears had evolved to want something else. My ears had evolved to want more than LL raps. I wanted to hear KRS One emphasis, and I wanted to hear some bars. Like I wanted to hear certain things that I was like, okay, for all purposes though, he was doing what he does. He was doing what he does, but I was starting to hear him try to see how he fits into what was going on today. And I now in hindsight, I'm like, that's my fault. I'm the person who forced him to try to be able to keep up with Cool G rap.
Yes.
I'm the person who forced him to, you know, and I say that not obviously not literally, but us as listeners, I don't think we would have allowed him to just do what he does. We were forcing him to be the king of New York still. You know what I mean? Like, and it didn't work. He wasn't the king of New York after Walking with the Panther. He was bigger than that. And that's the thing. We look at that album and go, it was a letdown or disappointment, but was it?
Yeah.
Did it work? It worked. You know what I'm saying? It's like just because it wasn't what I was wanting doesn't mean it. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, but to be fair, you know, and I took a lot of notes on this one.
Good stuff.
But dropping them from the gate, I just was like, okay, well, I guess so. That's your first song, all right. But there's a little moment that happens at the end of dropping them that, where the DJ is cutting, and it almost sounds like the needle had skipped, and the DJ's trying to find where he's supposed to be, and they recorded it and they kept it in the recording. It's an error, and they kept it, and that will forever resonate with me because that amazes me. The fact that as a control freak, professional Virgo, whatever, it messed me up. It confused me. Why would you do this? You know, now I'm like, yes, I'm so glad you did that because that's Wu-Tang forever. You know what I'm saying? Like that to me is like, doesn't matter if there's a mistake. Let's keep it moving. Get to the next song, you know? And the next song here was Smoking Doping. And again, I'm like, where's my LL? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's my LL? You know, but it's like, well, this wasn't him. This was LL doing Rakim. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, let me just lay back, smoking, doping, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? It was LL seeing, okay, this is what people are doing now. I could do that. Let me do that. You know what I'm saying? But at a time where we were still following you for your personality more so than for your agility. It was hard for me, you know, as a 17-year-old to accept that. You know what I'm saying? Like, Fast Peg, that's the hidden gem on this album, actually.
Interesting. Okay.
It's such a good song. And it's like, and it's great because it's basically, he's like, oh, okay, so people are doing, you know, crime rap or gangster rap or whatever you want to call it in 1989. I could do that. So he does. And that one, he really pulls off. It's so good. And the story's tight to me because it has a tragic ending.
Yes.
Which reminds us that there was a time when gangster rap had tragic endings. This was before, this was when there was still like conflict resolution and resolve. There was some sort of, there was consequences for your actions in the music. You know, later in the 90s, gangster music lost its consequences and it just became more like decadence. You know what I'm saying? And I think that this song and hearing this again last night made me kind of miss that era where it was like, nah, there's consequence for these decisions, because I feel like that was important for us to hear as kids. Like, you don't actually want to go to jail, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like that was important for us to hear, or you don't want to get shot. You know, whereas later on it was like, oh yeah, he got shot and we celebrate it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's a different time.
As it went on, there was just a lot of nihilism I found, which is you know, just mob deep, grave diggers, stuff like they got quite nihilistic and just like there is no, don't worry. So when I'm glad you thought about Fast Peg, because a lot of other things that people do talk about LL is, he never really, there was no social commentary. I know he tried it in the last decade. He tried social commentary and it really blew up in his face, unfortunately, but he tried. And sometimes I do think, would you rather have an artist who just keeps doing what they're doing, but it gets a little bit formulaic and boring and they don't really grow as much as you'd like them to? Or do you want someone who's just going to be like, you can call it like catching trends or trying to go with the waves, you know, but he does it well later in his career. He does that well. Like Mr. Smith is one of them albums where he is doing the bad boy, you know, stuff, but it's good. And I do think it's interesting to, what do you demand of an artist, as you've said, and I'm glad you put yourself in that perspective. As an artist yourself, you know, to as a listener, we do coerce people to do stuff we want to do that they necessarily may not want to, you know, especially if they're on majors and they're trying to sell, you know, and keep their labels and their record deals. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. Was there any others like that you really wanted to talk about? And I remember hearing you on what was I listening to? Watch Out. And there's an LL bar from yourself, I think, on there where you were like, you know, I wanted to be called LL until you started singing about girls I'd throw away the Kangol. And I was like, oh, Slug's been talking about this like for time.
You know, the funny thing is, in that song, after I say ripped off the can going threw it away, I do a ad lib that says, get it, get it, get it, get it. And it's a joke, me saying, do you get it? Because here I am telling a truth that I did want to be LL Cool J till he started making all these girl songs. But ironically, I grew up to be known as the underground rap guy that made all these girl songs, you know? And so that's why I was like, get it, get it, get it. Because I see that it was, I see how counterintuitive it was for me to be mad at LL Cool J for making these girl songs. But I also see how I don't think that my anger was anything more than just love. Like, I loved this guy so much, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've had the opportunity to tell him, I loved this guy. So I still, to this day, I love this guy. I love this man. You know what I mean? Like, I have so much respect for this man. But yes, he had to disappoint me though, because if he hadn't disappointed me for trying new things, then what's left? As you stated, then what's left? He's going to end up ultimately disappointing me for not trying new things. So why not take the risk? Because now, as an adult and as an artist, I always respect the risk. You take risks, even if I don't like them or they don't work, I respect that you took that risk. Yeah. And the funny thing is, that's what these were for LL. Like, we at the time wanted to be like, oh, he's selling out. But no, he was risking losing his core audience, which he did lose some of them. You know what I mean? But that's to be able to be like, I'm going to do what I want to do. Yeah. Because he always sounded sincere. That's the thing. When you hear somebody and it feels insincere or disingenuous, we can judge that then. Yeah. But if you are genuinely enjoying making this music, then I'm not going to judge you. I might not like your music. I might judge the music, but I'm not going to judge you. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess I had to get older to be able to say something like that. I don't know that I would have said that at 20 years old. Yeah. You know? Yeah. There's a maturity to it. There's a lot of stuff we could talk about on this song or on this album. You know, the landscape had changed a lot. We know that. And lyricism was replacing adrenaline. And that's why we got to see, LL's lyrics are not the most lyrical. That's where we realize, there's a lot of cringy stuff here. It's even beyond what we saw with the first two albums, because the first two albums had tons of cringy lines, but it was okay because it wasn't about the lines for him. It was about the delivery. Now we're starting to be able to see through it because now you're doing other people's deliveries. Yes. So now we're really be able to see what these lyrics are. And I feel like that might have been one of the things that made this album feel lackluster at the time, was because we were putting him next to Rakim, and we were putting him next to Big Daddy Kane, and we were putting him next to, you know, you put him next to Kool Moe Dee, he was still beating Kool Moe Dee, but Kool Moe Dee was from 5 years prior. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like now, you know, and so you're coming out and you'd be like, nah, I'm still the baddest. The fact that you had to say still is part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's what it felt like. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of the arrogance and the bragging felt like. So he was true to himself. And I'll never say that's a bad thing. But it just at the time, it was hard for me to like accept that, because I had been exposed to all of these people who were saying these amazing things, you know, and expanding my mind. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, these rappers were making me want to read books. Yeah. And then here's LL just like, I'm the baddest still. And it was just kind of like, okay, cool, bro. You be the baddest. And you got these girl songs. Now, I do want to point out one of these girl songs though, and I have it written down. It's called You're My Heart. Right. And I got that as my most rewindable moment, and not because it's great, but actually I wrote, I'm speechless and confused. There's so much weird. Right. It's the best parts of just music in general, like all the best parts of music, and then all the worst parts of music shoved together in this one song that it actually is amazing. Like, it's like, you know, that movie Army of Darkness. Right. Yeah. This is the musical equivalent to that movie, where you're like, what the fuck? You know, you're like, what is going on here? I have to finish this song to see where this is going because it's super epic. It's got epic noises. It's almost like Game of Thrones epic. And he's like, "You're my heart." He's like really giving it all. But then also the sounds are like, again, straight Casio keyboard sounds. You know what I'm saying? And then when you break down the words for what they are, he's trying to talk to teenage angst and all. And it's just like, what the hell is going on here, man? And at the time, I hated that song when it came out. But last night when I was listening to it, I was like, man, this song is accidentally amazing. And I'm going to listen to that song on a regular basis because it's so good, but it's so bad. It's just like, I don't even know, man. And then I was like, man, because I was so out of touch. I was like, did he ever make a video for this? So I went to go look for a video on YouTube last night, and there wasn't one there. But what I did find on YouTube is somebody took this song and slowed it down, like almost like chopped and screw style.
What?
And it's fucking scary. This song is scary. When you hear it like that, it's just like, oh my God, like I want to kill people to this song. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just like, man, I'd go out and just start stabbing people listening to this. It was like so buck.
Shit.
So dope.
That's so amazing. I've not heard that, but I can imagine it being eerie and weird. Absolutely.
And it's not just eerie and weird, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like when they slowed it down, it's like death metal. Like it's just like I really was like, man, I could sneak out right now. Kids are sleeping. Go get it in. Go down to the Five Guys and just take everybody out. I don't even know if you guys got Five Guys over there?
We do.
Oh, I'm
we do.
so sorry. I'm sorry. You have my condolences.
I'm feeling you. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan myself. But
no, I'm afraid I am a fan, which is the problem. Like I I actively don't go. But that's the problem is like, it's an active conscious thing to not go.
Not go. Like,
I'm like, oh, they got hot dogs too?
The feeling afterwards, it's just not worth
it. Throw little beeps all over this so that we're not accidentally promoting poison.
But yeah, going back to Cali though, did you have anything on that? I just want to talk about the production on that.
You know what? Here's the thing. I buy vinyl.
Here we go.
And
look at that cover. That cover.
Going back to Cali wasn't on the vinyl.
Right.
It was only on the CD. So I didn't talk about it. I can. Here's the thing. If Going Back to the Cali had been on this piece of vinyl, even though the song had already came out and the video was already out before this album dropped, it came out due to Less Than Zero.
Less Than Zero,
soundtrack.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. You guys, you slowed down Planet Rock and you rapped halftime to it. What is going on here? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like he invented a style right there. I loved it.
Yeah.
She said she liked the ocean, ran away with a bottle of wine. Yeah. I'm like 16. I want to run away with a bottle of wine. Come on, man. But Going Back to Cali's not on here. Had it been on here, this album would have elevated.
Right.
In fact, the thing about this album is this: there's 16 songs on the vinyl.
16.
There are 16. There are 4 extra songs not on here. 2 that were on the CD only, and 2 that were only on the cassette. So on the CD, you had Going Back to Cali, and then another song called I forgot what it's called. Oh, I wrote it down, bro. Another song that was called.
Did Jack the Ripper not make it on any of these? Or was it on the cassette? I think Jack the Ripper might have been on the cassette, maybe. I don't know.
It was on the cassette. Change Your Ways and Going Back to Cali were on the CD. Jack the Ripper and Crime Story were on the cassette.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. So all in all, that's 20 songs. If they would have just taken those 20 songs and cut it down to the best 12, this album would have been phenomenal. One of the things I noticed about this album is every song on here that's over 88 beats per minute is amazing. Nitro, It Gets No Rougher is amazing.
Bomb Squad.
Yeah, exactly. The other one, Why Do You Think They Call It Dope? Amazing. So, and then the songs that got the real slow beats, those are the ones we could have got rid of. We could have got rid of Dropping Them. We could have got rid of what's that second one? Smoking Doping.
Smoking Doping, yeah.
You know, you can't get rid of I'm the Type of Guy because that was a hit for him. You know, but you could get rid of You're My Heart. You could get rid of even though I love it, you could get rid of it. You know, but if you would have gotten rid of like 8 of the 20, this album would have been so solid. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have to change the cover art too, actually. So listen.
Yeah.
Hold on. I want to hold this the best way. Yeah. I want to hold it so it's visible. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to. Okay. So I'm just going to try to point out a few things. One, what's in the briefcase? Why is there a briefcase with some handcuffs? Let's just start there. Yeah. What are you implying? Is this where the rhyme books are? Yeah. Is this where the money is? Is this full of money? Yeah. Or is that where the champagne came from? There are 7 bottles of champagne on the back. Is that what happened? You got the champagne in the brief. Okay. And what's up with the Panther? And you got the Panther. I get it. Walking with a Panther. You know what? That's tight. Let's get literal. Mm-hmm, you put a Panther on there. You wear a gold chain. But here's my thing. I'm pretty sure it's a stuffed Panther because when you take it and if you were to turn it the other way, it's like got the same.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay.
It's blatant. Okay. It's blatant. Yeah.
Bro. We don't have to talk about the girls. We know why the girls are there, but they each got 2 bottles of champagne a piece. Like that's a
There's so
and
much.
check this out. And they're in an alley. They're hanging out in an alley. And also, if you look close, I think there's a fire going on inside of the building that they're outside of. It looks like there's flames in the window. Just in case you're paying a lot of attention, in case you're looking too hard, they are standing outside of a fire.
So many layers.
Bro, everything about this. And then when you bust it open and pull out the liner notes, first there's a black and white here. Yeah. And if you look close, his pupils have little panthers. Panthers in his pupil. No, go away, man. What are you doing?
So weird, but so kind of love it. I kind of love it. It's not just a straight.
I'm just saying, everything. It's so bad that it's the visual equivalent of that song I was talking about. Yes. Near My Heart. Like when things get so bad that they suddenly become really good.
Yeah,
like,
the stuffed panther.
It's like you went around the whole planet and came at the other side, and you're like, yo, it's not flat.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But the other side of the liner notes with the actual thank yous is genius. I love this side. It's like just good photos, some Glennie Friedman shots, actually.
Wicked.
And then his liner notes are the best. It's because he already knows that you are going to talk shit about this album, and he addresses it already in the liner notes. Yeah, he addresses it. I'm going to read it to you real quick. He says, first of all, it's too dark in here. I'd like to thank God for health and strength to say this. I call this album Walking with a Panther. I am young, black, and legal. I want to do my part in breaking stereotypes placed on young black men in America. By making this album, maybe one day my grandchildren can catch a cab or rent a car in West Hollywood. Perhaps my grandchildren will be able to ride the subway without people changing their seat or cops harassing them simply because they are driving a nice car, just because they are young and black. What I'm trying to say is you should judge a person by their personal characteristics and not merely by their clothes or skin. So I hope to prove to the world that I can reach all materialistic goals and be young, black, and legal. Special thanks are unnecessary. I sweat, cried, and bled for this album. Jeez. I love that. I love that because he's like, just like, yo, straight up, fuck you. Like I made this record because of, and he tells you what his goals are. He's like, I got materialistic goals that I'm going to reach legally and it's going to piss people off. And so that makes me go, yes, this album, I bring it all back, you know, and what non-90s rappers should be on here? I'll tell you who. Everything that's under 88 beats per minute should have 50 Cent on it, period. 50 Cent should be on all of them doing the hooks and busting a 16 because it would have made those particular, it would have showed us LL's rapping his ass off here. He really is. Because 50's going to come in and not rap his ass off. He's going to come in and do the personality. And so it would have been a great exchange. But everything that's over 88 beats per minute should have been LP. And the reason I say that is because all that Bomb Squad shit, LP would have sounded so good on this. And LP is really good at what quality control.
Right.
And I feel like his involvement on a record like this, he'd have been like, yo, what are you doing right now? No. Say it like this. You know what I mean? Like not to say LL needs like a coach, but I feel like if LP had been involved in the making of this album, this fucking album would have fucking, it'd have been a bag of nails. You know what I'm saying? Like it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go for it. No, go on. You can say, but what?
So with that said, I'm so glad I had to revisit this album because it reminded me and it validated a lot of my feelings about it. But it also, at this age, looking at it, it opened me up to go, whoa, there's more going on here than I could. I couldn't be accountable for seeing all that when I was 17. Now as an adult, I could see all the stuff that was going on here. And so it's like, oh, okay. So I can't hold him. This album, you know, I don't know that I'll ever revisit it again aside from You're My Heart. But this album's existence is so important to that late 80s thing that was happening because it showed everybody that even the pop star, LL was the pop star, but that even the pop star has to care about what they're doing. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And I think he continued to do that forever. So that's because that's the one thing we couldn't take away from him was that we could never say he didn't sell out. He wasn't just shitting out songs because people were eating it up. You know what I'm saying? And if he would have kept doing what he was doing, maybe that's really what would have happened. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, we know artists that kept in their lane and never challenged themselves and it just got stale. He forced himself, he risked, he took all that stuff and did it. And he did it as though he wanted to do it. Not because he was like, oh, let me just get this money or let me give the people what they want. He was like, let me do this. And now let's figure out how to make the people want it. Yeah. You know? And so I feel like, man, I respect that. And so this is to me, this is a great 3-album run, 5 mics across the board. And we can argue whether 5 mics need to be given to that last album, but I'm giving those mics to that album based on intent, based on execution, based on the things that at 17, I didn't even understand how to like think about.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you went deep. You went to the depths of the ocean with that, and I'm glad because I don't know if I would have got that anywhere else. And I think this is the thing about LL. Them liner notes makes me think of Hollister Hollywood. Did it? You know that line he came out with. It was just one of them things where you were, oh yeah, you know that's what. But he's in. Is it Wildcats? He's in the Goldie Hawn film. He's in The Hard Way with what's his name, James Woods. He's in these things where he's doing things that rappers aren't necessarily, apart from Will Smith maybe, but they haven't done this. They haven't like. Just quickly going back to radio, the amount of times I've heard, and I've tried to just kind of school myself on the impact of radio, everyone talks about the Crushed Groove appearance and how impactful it was. And I just keep thinking to myself, man, by the time I got into LL, 10, 15 years into his career, yes, he was jumping on Neptune's beats, he was jumping on Timbaland beats, but they were soundtracking part of my life. And I find that beating a man for, what necessarily isn't always, he's trying, as we said. I think, I'm glad that we've got a maturity to it now. We can go back and reassess these things. As a GOAT, as a man who, do you think he gets enough respect or adulation, or do you think that's changing slightly? Where do you think he sits in that now after this run and now?
I mean, that's hard to say. Here's the thing, like, it depends on who it's coming from. Like, it's really virtually impossible to make everybody recognize you as what you are, I think other artists who are able to like really look at his career, I think they all can like all walk away with a lot of respect for him. Now, my kid, let's say my 27-year-old or my 11-year-old, I don't think either of them would care if I turned off an LL Cool J album. If it was playing and I turned it off, I don't think either of them would be like, hey, why'd you turn that off? You know what I mean? So I don't know how to speak to like, you know, how would his work engage with the youth of today? I don't know if but I don't know if it's supposed to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, you know, when I think about the rappers that my 11-year-old, when I play stuff around them, the people that he would be like, oh, who is this? It's interesting to hear what it is, because oftentimes it's based in just straight sound. And if he hears noises that he's familiar with, specifically 808s or 909s, I think that resonates with him faster, because all of that is, you know, a huge part of today's music as well. So he hears that, and then he's like, oh, this is old school stuff, you know, as opposed to if he hears somebody rapping over James Brown samples, I don't think it would resonate as much. So maybe if I played Radio, that album, in front of the 11-year-old, he might be like, who is this? You know, he might be like, why does it sound so old? You know, but I'd be like, oh, because it's from 1985. And he'd be like, whoa, 1985. Oh, yeah. But I think that the noises, the sounds of the adrenaline and the drums, I think he might feel that. He might hear that. But I don't think he, again, would be like, why'd you turn that off? You know?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because then you think, like, I think he's such a key player in, because even if the kids aren't feeling it, I think you probably see it more than I do, but the acceptance of hip hop becoming mainstream, he seems to be very integral in that. And I even think there's even a line in Bad where he says something about, you know, I dare a critic to call this noise. And you're like, that line, you can tell there was some flag waving of, this shit is not a fad, this shit is here for real. And just seeing hip hop lexicon, even the other day on British News, someone said, what's your beef with that? I was like, that's on the British, like, it shouldn't stick out now. It shouldn't, you're right. But from my era, no one talked like that, you know, and I think LL helped that. And he's like, he didn't really curse much. I know, and I think it's Jingling, I can't remember, Jingling Baby. What? I have to just bring up that track. I love that track. I don't know what it is. That beat, just, and I know the hook is a little bit, you know, questionable, but just.
Oh, I love that hook.
Yeah. But it's just so catchy. And I remember just thinking, wow, that is probably a track I'll probably always play. I think it's probably one of my most rewindable ones from that. But if we talk about like LL, then just to cap it all off, and I appreciate you bringing all of this just passion to it, man. If you think now about his run, when you go back to your listening days, did you ever keep it up to date with him? Did you go with him as a fan, or did you kind of leave him to the 80s?
I did not. I kept up with him until Walking with the Panther. And then I was like, But then when he did Mama Said Knock You Out, I was like, all right, he's still around, but it just never was the same again.
Yes.
And my respect for him started to turn more towards everything he was doing outside of music. He stayed relevant with me, but it was because of the fact that he had figured out, same with Will Smith, I was able to be huge fans of both of them without following their musical output, because they were expanding this culture around the world in a way that was noble and respectful, but also honest. You know, they weren't trying to like sell anybody no magic water. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it was an honest sell, but they sold through acting and through the way that they carried themselves. They sold hip hop to the world. You know what I'm saying? And so I will always look at the two of them as being, in my mind, the two most influential rappers of all time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you could talk about like Eminem because he sold a zillion records, and you could talk about KRS-One or Rakim because they created styles. You could talk about Jay-Z. You could say all these things, but at the end of the day, like, Eminem sold all those records to a world that already had become accustomed to hip hop. These guys were dealing with a world that was like, what? And then Fresh Prince was in everybody's living room weekly selling them hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so to me, that will always, I will always look to those two as like they are the forefathers of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, not obviously Kool Herc, and you know, we go into the history of who really is the founding father, but these two were the ones that like made the world like just accustomed to it.
Yeah.
To the point where you hear people on, what's your beef with that? Like, it's no big deal. The culture is everywhere so much that we don't even have to point at it no more.
Yeah.
It's just now there. And I do feel like these two were the ones. But LL, for me, I was influenced by both of them as rappers. I got to keep it real. And I know this isn't a show about Fresh Prince, but yeah, maybe we could do that one next.
Why not, man? Why not?
but LL for me, man, I wanted to be him. I was like, to me, I was like him and Prince were my real parents. You know what I'm saying? Like LL Cool J and Prince.
Damn, what a way to end it.
I wish they would have made a song together.
Oh,
you know?
Imagine. Although, you know, this is the thing, isn't it? Like he said that recently he's got Q-Tip songs. I'm like, wow, L and Q-Tip now. I'm so here for that. Even though I've not heard L in like 10 years. You know, I'm still really here for that. Him and Dre and
Dre made stuff. Yeah, I heard about all that stuff even as it was happening. You know, all the different things that and you know, I'm friends with Z-Trip, and Z-Trip is his tour DJ and also works at Rock the Bells. And so I'm in awe of LL as the Enigma still. Just because I'm still like only one step away, and I hear things from Z-Trip talk about the things, you know, just things that he says or does, and I'm just kind of like, man, this human is very. What I love about him is he is very self-aware of his position. You know what I'm saying? Like he knows that people see him as what he is, and he treats us with that in mind. You know, it's easy for people in power or people in positions to just still feel like a normal person or to even push themselves to just be a normal person, try to be a normal person. But the problem is that when they get into social situations, those other people don't see you as that. So sometimes when you're just trying to be a normal person, you don't realize that maybe actually you're accidentally presenting, who knows, microaggressions or just problematic situations for these people who see you as something else. And so when you can approach a situation knowing how people see you and dealing with them in that type of an environment or that type of a vibe, I feel like that's a beautiful thing. I feel like that's important. And I see LL as one of those people.
And just to cap that, just the fact that we can celebrate classic hip hop and not look at it all fuddy-duddies, you know, talking about the old days. I love new hip hop, but the fact that we have Rock the Bells, which LL is part of and pushes, and it celebrates this era that, you know, we're not shitting on any new shit. We're just saying, isn't it like classic hip hop, classic rock radio, right? They must have dozens of those stations, and we don't really have dozens of classic hip hop radio, because I think there's this weird thing of, oh, it's old, it's not new. And I know we should embrace newness, but I also think the culture, as it gets older, it's quite nice that we have LL going there. And I know the Versus has done, like, it's been a few years for classic hip hop to be celebrated because of Versus, because of Rock the Bells, people like that. So yeah, just to cap that point. And yeah, man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But Slug, we've talked about LL. I know you've got new music out as well, and we talked about new music, and your history is so deep. And I remember just hearing things like Shrapnel and Modern Man's Hustle, stuff like that, and those things really, like, the beat switching, that is unbelievable. These things have stuck with us as heads, so it's an honor to have you on and talk about your new one, Word. How are you feeling now? That's out now. How do you feel now it's landed?
I'm glad it's out. You know, it's interesting because when we make albums, we still kind of stick to the old tradition of you spend this time crafting an album, sequencing it, putting it together. Then you give it to the label, and the label takes their time crafting and figuring out how they want to present it to people. And so by the time people get to hear it, it's a year old to you. You know, it's just like I realize that in the age that we're in now, we could make an album, master it tonight, and put it out tomorrow if we wanted to. But we still kind of go through the weird rituals that we grew and learned, you know? And so I guess when you ask, how do I feel now that it's out? I'm relieved that it's finally out. You know, It's one of those things with us when we make music. It's not about the release date anymore, because we no longer need to be validated by how well it is seen on its first week, et cetera, et cetera. Like those days are kind of behind us now. And so now it's more like, hey, look, we knitted this blanket. There it is. And while you're looking at it, we're already knitting another blanket, because it's just what we do. We don't know how to knot. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like it's forever this thing where it's like, by the time an album is released, I'm so immersed in the next project that the last thing I want to hear is the music on the album that we just released. Please don't play that around me. I will study the ones I need to study for the live show. And other than that, I'm going to focus on what I'm doing now, because this has gotten me excited and energized, and it's where my world is. You know what I mean? So it's a weird relationship to have. With that said, there are things about this album that I am so very proud of, and I'm so glad that people have received it the way that it has been received. I feel like oftentimes, you know, as an artist, you worry about how people will interpret what you're trying to communicate. And I feel like for the most part, most of the feedback I've gotten or the comments that I've read, good or bad, have at least interpreted the intent correctly. And I feel like that's important with music, you know? And so I'm excited. I'm excited this one came out. I'm excited with the way it looks. I think that the label did an amazing job putting it together and packaging it. And I really love what the label has been doing for the last decade with packaging. I think that, you know, as a person myself who collects records, when you hand me a record that looks amazing, I love it. You know what I'm saying? So I love that there's a lot of effort put into making these things look amazing. I got to work with a lot of all friends, but a lot of friends that I've not had the opportunity to necessarily work with that much. You know, it's like oftentimes people, they kind of expect Brother Ali to pop up on my album or what have you, but to be able to go, oh, hey, you want to make a song? And have somebody be like, yeah, cool, check it out. And not only that, but to not be a control freak about it. That's one of the things that I've been working on and learning, is how to take my vision and actually allow it to be a collaboration with somebody else's vision. You know, oftentimes I get to, you know, it's just me and Anthony, and things can become very insular. And so to be able to be like, hey, you want to rap on this? Yeah, just send me what you send me, and then I'll figure out what it looks like and what we'll do and here and there. And then, here's what I did. And here's what I think you should do with that. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. And it's a new thing for me, kind of, you know, I get to do that with Merce, but it's to the point where me and Merce have done it so many times that even that is like, those muscles have been exercised, you know what I mean? And so to be able to do that with other people has, specifically on this Word project, was really fun, man. It was a lot of fun to try and figure out how to fit into, music with other people. I'm also very proud of and happy about the song that came out with Doom and Aesop and me, because you know, the way that song came together was like, so, you know, it wasn't supposed to happen. The beat was supposed to be a posse cut for the Rhyme Sayers 25th anniversary, and it was going to get everybody to do an 8-bar verse on this beat, you know. And now in hindsight, I'm like, man, that would have been such a fucking mess. You know what I'm saying? To have like an 8-minute song with like 30 rappers on it, you know, like, when I was like, hey, how about I just take this beat and send it to Aesop and Doom and see what they think. And both of them were like, yep, I like it. Let's do it. And for me to be like going, he, it's kind of like a part 2 to a song we did a long time ago. You know, it's got all of my little gears running. And then what they both sent back, what Aesop sent back, he sent his back first, and then Doom sent his back in. And I was just so excited that I got what I got from both of them. And then he passed away, man, Doom. You know, actually shortly after he sent me the verse, he passed away. I didn't know, because like everybody else, I found out on New Year's Eve. But the whole thing kind of set off a series of like, just a lot of afterthought. A lot of thought has gone into just like my space in this, and, you know, what I want to do before it's my turn to pass away. Not to get all morbid, but, you know, it's just like that set a lot of stuff in motion, as it should. It made me just really start unpacking a lot of things for myself, you know. Specifically musically, and with how I apply myself to what I do, which really just lit a fire into me to make more and more and more stuff. You know what I'm saying? It got me really going to just like start recording more and more and more. Yeah.
Man, I'm glad you touched on that. You kind of answered a lot of the stuff, because I saw evidence on there, and obviously, you know, Aesop and the Doom thing. So you've kind of addressed the stuff I was wanting to tackle, because I feel it's interesting when I hear just hip hop now that just, you know, things stick with me. And I think there's even a track on there where you talk about I should have been a cook. And I'm like, this man has been around making music that's changed people's lives, small accounts, and I should have been a cook. And I just think that, I don't know, I thought of Jerobi from Tribe Called Quest straight away, because I was thinking he left Tribe Called Quest to be a cook. And I imagine if Slug had done that, that'd have been mad. But yeah, these things.
I still got time. I got time still.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. But look, I know I've taken up so much more of your time than I was allotted to, and I understand how much this is, but I appreciate all the energy and passion you've brought to this. People, do go check out Words, do go check out all of Atmosphere stuff. It's always good, and it's just been a pleasure to have you on, man. And the doors are open if you ever want to just jump back on and talk hip hop and just nerd out, and you know what I mean. Like, we're here for it, bro. And to hear insight from yourself is always a pleasure.
I appreciate it. And people, if you got time to check anything out, please go listen to You're My Heart by LL Cool J off of Walking with a Panther. Take some time out for that self-care. Okay. Because everybody should hear this song at least once. Because it's
fascinating.
It's on par with like a live action Smurf movie. Like it would just be like, what is happening right now, man? Like, I love it.
Well, one of our questions usually is, the last question we ask people is, what's the last great piece of music you heard? But I feel that might be the last great piece of music.
I mean, where I sit today right now, yeah. Because that was just last night. And on the way here, I only listened to talk radio. So yeah. If I don't count that, that's a really interesting question.
Could be old, could be new. Doesn't have to be a new one.
I'm at a loss.
It's all good. We can.
You know what? I just recently visited one of the John Wayne albums. You familiar with him?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Is it the one that's got his? Not face? The cracker one. It's the one with the face. Yep. I heard it for the first time. I somehow didn't hear that when it came out. I heard the one with the cracker on it. I bought it. I got the vinyl with the one with the face, and I just pulled it out and played it a couple of days ago, and was just like, yes, like again, like he's so good. You know what I'm saying? Like and not spoken of enough. You know what I'm saying? He's Definitely. One of those artists that use a little bit more of a spotlight on him, because I think there's a lot for people there inside of what he's doing and just who he is. You know what I'm saying? This who this human is that's presenting this art. I love that guy.
I love where hip hop can go like that. John Wayne, just no one talks about that album or him generally. You're right. And I'm glad you pulled that out, because again, another artist out there, that
the one with the cracker is great too. So both, if you're not familiar with who John Wayne is, JONWAYNE, I don't know the names of the albums, but the one with the cracker on it and the one with his face on it, both those albums are super good.
Wicked. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the music, and just keep doing you. And I hope the kids get better in yourself. And man, this is you off foot. Like, this is you under the weather. Jesus Christ, you've been digging in, man. I've loved it. I've loved every second. So thank you.
Oh yeah, man. If you would have got me at like 6 PM, maybe 5 milligram edible, this would have been crazy.
That's the next one.
It's weird. I feel like maybe the cough syrup version of me is kind of fun too. So.
Maybe. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
You too.